Hey guys, Starcraft and Ingrid here, and this is more done for Bleeding Fool since we originally did our one stream, but they're asking, hey, can you put one out for a review for us to put on there? So I figured, why not? So we're gonna
Yeah,
be.
it's not like everyone has an hour and a half to spare, which is apparently how long we spent talking
Oh
about it.
yeah, on the nose, no doubt. We ended right on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
An hour and 28 minutes, 0-0. I'm like, wow.
Wow.
That's rare that you end on the nose, but yeah. So we're just going to condense our thoughts on this movie and our thoughts on this chapter of the MonsterVerse in general. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Godzilla versus Kong, second favorite out of the MonsterVerse for me. Same with
Yeah,
you?
I can second that. It was really good. Not as good as King of the Monsters, just barely, but still really, really good.
Barely. Oh yeah, definitely very good. And this could have been equal. I can say this: it was never going to go past King of the Monsters, but it would have been right on par. Because really, King of the Monsters is our top. I don't think anything could have topped it, but been equal to it. But unfortunately, what hurt this movie was the Godzilla and villain side of the human story.
Yeah, that side of the plot was kind of made of cardboard.
But let's start it.
Pretty aesthetically pretty cardboard.
Yeah, now let's start from the beginning because we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Kong movie more than anything else. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's like Kong's kind of the protagonist of the movie, and then everything else kind of frames it. Hi, Trouble.
Hi, Trouble. But yeah, basically, this is about Kong, which makes sense. He's only had one movie, so of course he would be the main focus of this one. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and then you have you're introduced. We find out Skull Island is it's pretty much dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's perpetual storms. All the natives, save for one little girl, either dead or gone. To be fair, I rewatched it. They don't really specify if all of them are dead, just the girl's parents are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Gia.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but Gia is my favorite human character in the whole thing. Just the idea
I would definitely agree with that.
definitely, she is what Maddie was in the last one. Not saying Maddie's bad here, but she kind of lost a lot of the edge she had. But that's more due to how the story around her is, not the actress herself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Gia is basically a deaf girl who we later find out can actually communicate with Kong.
Because she uses sign language.
And apparently Kong knows sign language, which makes some sense. He is more of a primate, so why couldn't he?
It's just like,
yeah.
I mean, you can teach normal monkeys sign language. Why not a big monkey?
Exactly. And she has her keeper, L.A. or Elan or something like that, who, looking back as well, kind of is just there, really. When you really think about it, she's just there. I liked her when our first viewing around it, but now as I look back, I'm like, she's good. She's not bad, but
just a little bit flat.
Yeah, you need her there for Gina, for her to be a guardian. All that. That's really all you need her there for.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Nathan. That's the other scientist. I loved him. He was
he was great. He just seemed like the kind of like everyman who got thrown into this crazy situation and then just having to adapt to it all.
But he also felt like the kind of guy who says, "Oh yeah, I came up with this theory stuff, and yeah, I believe in it. But now that I actually have to see it,
okay then."
Because that's how it was at first when you think about it. He was printing all this stuff. Everyone thought he was a crackpot, and now he's actually brought aboard, and he's like, but now he's going along with it fine. But you can still tell there are times where he's like,
wait, what the frick?
Exactly. But again,
I don't want to be right. Why was I right?
Yeah, but he keeps up. He does keep up at least, and at least he has a history. That's the other thing. He has a history with Eli. Again, whatever her name is. I didn't memorize her name by this point, but yeah. But now they are fine. Then you have Team Godzilla, which is Madison is back. Her father's technically back, but he is so wasted here.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that? He is wasted.
Yeah, it's just like, where was he even in the movie?
Well, he's the head of Monarch now, which makes sense. That does make sense for him to be the head of Monarch. The only other person who could have been is the twin scientists, but they're just that. They're scientists. They're not leadership material.
Yeah, they're cut out for the administrative part of it.
Which, Mark, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Especially when you look at how much Ishiro respected him.
Mm-hmm.
Once he got over his hatred for Godzilla, it makes sense. But again, it just felt like it was so superfluous for him to be here. And
Mm-hmm.
Maddie, I'll be honest, again, the actress herself is fine, but Madison herself kind of acts like she's older than she is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like...
I mean, she looks
I mean,
older.
I mistook her for a college student at first when she's supposed to be a high schooler.
Exactly. Maybe even not even that. Like barely high school. Now, again, she does look older. That much is certain. But the character herself, not that much. It's only supposed to be 5 years that passed. Unfortunately for the actress, not as much time has passed for her.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows. And it just feels like they're trying to write her off, but you can so tell she's not, you know, in her acting. And then you have Bernie. I liked half of the character.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like if they, like, yeah, he's sort of the guy who's sort of, like, been in on, like, the conspiracy side of the, like, generic evil megacorp apex.
Exactly. Now, let's also
Like,
be honest. Ones. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
And he sort of, like, runs a podcast that Maddie listens to, and it's like, and he's got some kind of a past where, okay, he's had some issues with, like, monsters and, like, losing his wife and stuff, but then they go a little bit too far and include stuff like... Yeah, they include too much tinfoil hat stuff, and I feel like that's sort of like, am I supposed to take this character seriously or not?
Now, the bathing and bleach, to be fair, that was the only way for them to find him. Oh, hey, look at Trouble. Like, oh, gee, now he looks a little like, oh, you talking to me? but yeah, like I said, now, Grant, the bathing and bleach, it was the only way for them to find him. I get that part, but...
Everything else was just kind of unnecessary.
The tap water and all that stuff. But here's the other thing is, security for Apex must be the worst in the world. One, if 4chan was more likely to find out who Bernie is, why couldn't they? You know,
yeah.
It's like, what, did they ignore it? This is supposed to be a popular podcast. So they're not like, okay, who among us is talking about this stuff? For 5 years, he's there for like 5 years, ever since the events of King of the Monsters. So you're like, how could they not find him in 5 years?
It's like, it's just like, did you just have the worst luck rolling crit fails on your insight and perception investigation checks?
Apparently, because as soon as they go back to the destroyed Apex base, we'll talk about that in a moment, throughout the whole thing, it takes them being right up in their face for them to finally get caught. Like, even when they're down in the pits, no one even senses them, no one sees anything about them. Now, granted, you have a big monster that takes up more of the focus, but still, it's like, okay, there's blind spots, but then there's just plain, you don't have security systems or security stuff. In the ship that has a bunch of monster eggs, you think they would have sensors in there to be like, uh-oh, some of them are hatching too soon. Nope, none of that. Which brings us to the dumbness that is Apex. The villains in the last movie, as over the top as they were not this mustache twirling, well, they were to an extent, but even then they still have the charismaticness to overcome it.
And like, at least they had also had kind of like a, oh, we're kind of returning to the Earth to what it once was kind of motive, which it's just like, okay, crazy environmentalism, I get that. What was the deal with Apex's cardboard cutout evil megacorp business? I called them Discount Shinra.
Exactly. I mean, again, you had Charles Dance in the last one, who's definitely able to carry on where you feel this guy is both crazy but serious. It's like this guy's like a self-contained psycho. But yeah, then but here though is Apex. It's like, okay, they want to make humanity the Apex predators again. They never were. They were just. This is
just their world. We're living in it.
Exactly. We were just lucky that the Titans stayed dormant because we didn't do anything to piss them off. But apparently, in their mind, they think we're dumb. Now, again, to come up with a anti-Titan robot in itself, especially if Godzilla ever fell, oh, that would have been fine. In fact, okay, I'll just jump to the case. Here's how I would have fixed Apex. Have it be that they were just in such denial that they were causing Godzilla to go nuts, that they really believed what they were doing.
Maybe they have something of a hero complex about it.
Exactly. That would have been fine. That would have explained quite a bit. They might have explained the lack of security because they think we're not the bad guys here.
Mm-hmm.
But
We're gonna save the world.
Exactly, but nope, because we need these people to be evil. Everything just makes sense. This is beyond Bond level stupidity. This is beyond that. And and then the worst, most underutilized character, Ren Shirazawa. Why the fuck was he related to Ishiro Shirazawa? Why?
Yeah.
They never mention him. They just mentioned his last name. I don't think they even bring up his father at all, and they don't explain why he's doing this at all. You could have called him something else. You could call him Sagusa after Miki Sagusa, one of the recurring characters from the '90s series. Would have made as much sense.
It's just like, why mention something with that kind of significance? You aren't gonna use it somehow.
Exactly. I mean, the most we ever got was in the novelization for King of the Monsters, which I doubt anyone read, where we find out, oh, the two have been estranged. Okay, then why the frick would he want to, go after the monster then if he was estranged from his father, unless he believed that they should be killed? But in that case, though, it's, again, there's not that much to explain. Even the novels were just vague about it.
But we've been harping on about the bad parts of this for too long. Let's get into the good stuff.
The majority of the good, which was, first of all, Kong himself. We open up with Kong just like, scratching his butt and everything. I'm just like, right there, they humanize him.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm just lazing around having the time of my life.
Except for the fact that I'm stuck in this little prison that they think I'm too dumb to realize. Okay, the only thing I know, I'll rip this tree apart and throw it into the force field.
It's just like, he's a bit more grown up from when we last saw him in Kong Skull Island, but you can still tell he's kind of just like, I don't know, the Titan equivalent of like your mid-20s to mid-30s.
Exactly, and he's a guy. He's definitely a guy. He kind of feels like that bachelor pad kind of feel, doesn't it? Like he doesn't care if anyone's looking. So none of that.
And he's got to prove himself to the world.
Exactly. Then now, for some reason, Godzilla, who looks just as amazing in this one as he had in the others, is attacking these apex places. And of course, people are thinking, why is he attacking this humanity? Why is he doing this? Which is like, as Mark would say, Godzilla's attacking innocents, and we don't know why. Boy, did that get overplayed. But now, despite what the trailer says, they're not thinking we need King Kong to save the world. They don't want that. That never really comes up even, does it? But instead, they want Kong so they can find Hollow Earth, so they can utilize the energy down there. Now, one thing I do like, apparently Skull Island is where Hollow Earth comes out. That makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense, and I really liked the world building in this movie in that respect.
Definitely. This had some of the best world building since King of the Monsters, because Skull Island kind of did, not as much as you think, though.
Yeah, but here it's just like, wow, we're really getting into the thick of it.
Oh, yeah, and it feels like this is where everything has come to accumulate. Everything about, the Hollow Earth, everything about the Titans, all that. Even a cliffhanger from the last one we'll get to. But yeah, so it's soon decided, okay, let's take Kong there. We'll avoid Godzilla as much as we can, and we'll take him to the Arctic. And sure enough, that's what they do. But that's by far one of the biggest jump cuts, I felt like. Okay, we'll take him. Next thing we know, Kong's on the boat. And again, we don't know that the girl can talk to him. So how the heck did they do it? Did they use chloroform like the Peter Jackson movie? They never.
You could have taken the time they spent mentioning Ren Shirazawa and put it towards that, and that would have been a better use of the runtime in the movie.
Exactly, because again, you didn't. I'll just say it again. You didn't need Ren. You could just be the scientist working for the Big Bang. Just have the Big Bang explain everything. You didn't need a named guy to be the pilot. But anyway.
And anyhow, back to Kong.
Yep, back to Kong. So yeah, they make their way there, and then we get round one as Godzilla shows up, and his attacking. I have to wonder, was it in part because he sensed Kong as another alpha, or was it because of the energy on the ship, or was it a bit of both? Because he was quick to, once they shut the ship down, he was quick to leave, so I don't know.
I think it's definitely left ambiguous in this point in time, because you're still sort of raising the question of what the frick is going on through Godzilla's head at this point.
Exactly, but you you can also tell Kong is out of his depth with Godzilla. Like Kong might be at his peak for his kind. He hasn't been around nearly as long as Godzilla. And you can still tell the moment Kong punches him, and then Godzilla just backhands him like, bitch, please. Just think about a backhand knocked Kong off his ass. Whereas Godzilla a punch to do it.
Yeah, it's just like, they really played up the visuals big time here. The fins of Godzilla coming through, like sharks in the water, the underwater sequences.
Oh yeah, exactly. The underwater sequence. And then, of course, humanity had to help out by using depth charges. But it's so clear. Godzilla, once they shut down, Godzilla's like, okay, not here, not what I was thinking. Goodbye. But yeah, so they decide, this was probably also done as a way to have an excuse so they could do something that happened in the original King Kong vs. Godzilla, having Kong be airlifted and dropped. Now, of course, in the original one, it was a bunch of balloons. Here, it's a bunch of helicopters. Much more.
Which is, a lot more serious.
But yeah, they lead him there, and then after a little coaxing, they then finally make their way down to the Hollow Earth. Oh, I should point out, because she's been so superfluous, the CEO's daughter is here as well. She's so obviously evil. It was like they weren't even trying. You're like, yep, I'm gonna backstab you. Okay, we still trust you. Why? It's like, but yeah, they make their way there, and the Hollow Earth, good God, was that gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, I looked at it, and I was getting like 3 million world-building ideas going through my head in a second, since I kind of had something like that in my own D&D world build, where it's just another world below, like, the surface of the continent.
Yep, and I also say this, I like the short fight he had with the war bats. He right down to, just like he did with the squid, ripping it off and go, like, gross, but
it's just like, he's curious. He's exploring this new old place that apparently his kind came from.
Exactly. And then eventually he makes it to the throne room, where apparently the Kongs were the dominant rulers of Hollow Earth. Whereas Godzilla is ruler up there, he's ruler down there. And yeah, we're shown to the big axe, and we see the big throne for him to sit on. And right at the same time, is after Madison and the others make their way there, we're also introduced to the third kaiju, my second favorite next to Big G himself, Mecha-Godzilla.
Ooh.
Now I've been hearing more and more people that don't like his design. I do.
I loved it. I mean, I'm still the kaiju noob here, but I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yep. Now I showed you during the stream all the other variations, so I can see when they're comparing to the other versions why they might complain. But to be honest, given the design of how Monsterverse Godzilla looks, I don't see that as like there's a way you can possibly streamline his look. You know what I mean?
I mean, you're jury-rigging together a bunch of technology in the shape of a giant monster. That's not going to look pretty.
Exactly. But yeah, though. And then you have, also you brought in a skull crawler. A bigger one than the one from Skull Island.
And it gets liquidated.
Yep, although we didn't find out why they need the Hollow Earth energy, because that one attack shut it down. But yeah, so they make but then we find out the big twist. It's utilizing all of the input from the human controls through Ghidorah's skull and brain. Now, granted, this is supposed to be the docile one, Kevin, but even then, it's still Ghidorah.
Yeah.
I would say the idea of this was sound. Try to use a kaiju's brain so it can translate the impulses of a human control to a kaiju's, or Titan's actions. Makes sense, but did you have to go with Ghidorah? Granted, I know, that's the only one, and they never explain how they got the skull. Last time this environmentalist group had it. Why would they sell it off? My only guess is Apex just swooped in and wiped them out. That's my only guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, when these people are villains of the world, why would people complain if you wipe them out? Like, you sort of talking about, like, reworking Apex into kind of having a hero complex. They might have even, like, I don't know, maybe they even could have, like, been shown, like, wiping those people out, and that's why they would have had some good PR.
Exactly. But they just kept the Ghidorah part hush hush for obvious
Mm-hmm.
reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then eventually, once Godzilla arrives in Kong Kong, because they activated Mecha-Godzilla, he just stomps his way through and then shoots his breast down into the hollow earth. And what was your theory behind why he did that? Remember, because Kong got the axe and everything, so what did you say with Godzilla?
It was basically like Godzilla sensed the equivalent of a 13-year-old finding finding Dad's gun in the drawer, and it's just like, oh no, I'm not letting you hurt anybody or more yourself with that.
Yep, and basically he just shoots down there, and then basically roars, basically saying, "Stay, know your place, don't mess with things." And of course, as far as Kong is concerned, you just damaged my ancestral home. The hell was you? Grabs the axe and goes right up there, and thus starts round 2.
I thought it was really clever. It's just like, oh, that's how he's gonna get the power up to sort of being able to stand any sort of a chance, even if not necessarily win.
Yep. Now, the other thing is, I have to now wonder, does that mean Godzilla's breath has actually been Hollow Earth's energy, or is it still thermonuclear, but it's equivalent to Hollow Earth's energy? That, they never explain that part.
That being said, it's not the biggest jump in logic to make to assume that they're connected.
Well, especially that the axe is made out of a dorsal fin of a Godzillasaur. That much is obvious, but yeah, so overall, but then the big fight happens, and well, let's just say Kong is able to keep up with Godzilla at least.
Yeah, and the visuals for Hong Kong in here are absolutely gorgeous.
Yep, exactly. It is so gorgeous. But yeah, then you have Kong just trying. And I'd like it all except the one time that Godzilla gets his breath on shoots his beam at King Kong, he smirks like, "Take that, you punk." Did you remember that? Where he just smirks after he blasts him? It's like,
oh yeah.
Yep, but except for that one time, Godzilla doesn't get another blast on Kong at any other point except for that one.
Because we're on his turf this time, the urban jungle.
Exactly, and then eventually, now we have a great bit where Team Kong comes back through the whole Godzilla shot, and then they're almost hit by, running to Kong. I just felt like, this is a nod to those old Universal rides, isn't it? Like, wah! But, and then Kong gets in a good hit. Now, they say round 2 goes to Kong. Given how quick it is for Godzilla to get up, would you really say that, or would you say that? I think it may be, because they do have some time pass. Now, the other thing also that's a bit of a real annoyance is that they don't bring up Hollow Earth energy to Mecha-Godzilla. They scan it and then synthesize it. I mean, I get it. You need a way to make it. That's more for the plot expediency. It's really still stupid, though. How can you duplicate by just scanning the energy? I don't get it. But yeah, Mecha-Godzilla is turned on, and throughout the whole thing, you hear little sounds of the beady 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 from King Ghidorah. You're like, oh shit. And sure enough, this takes over.
Yeah, because working a bunch of experimental technology with an unknown energy source is going to always end in your favor.
Yep, Ren gets killed off unceremoniously, just zapped. And here's the other thing I want to point out with Ren. First, we think he's a complete psycho because he gives a very slasher smile when he's piloting, when he's piloting and destroying the Skull Crusher. But then when they're saying plug in the energy, go control it, he then tells the CEO, well, we don't know what we're dealing with. It's like, okay, now you're sounding like your father? What? Again, it's just, he's so two-faced. That's the way I can say it. But yeah, he gets killed, the CEO gets killed. I love he's all talking about what he's ready to do. And it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Honestly, that scene was the best moment for his character, which says a lot.
But yeah, though, and then Mecha-Godzilla gets out, and Godzilla, we skipped ahead. Godzilla gets back up, fights Kong. He's like, all right, kid, I was playing nice with you. Now the kid gloves are off, and he just mauls Kong. Gets on all fours, something we've never seen Godzilla do, and just slash and bite at everything him. It
was gruesome.
It makes it clear Godzilla is the dominant. right then and there, no question asked. You don't need him to kill Kong. He proved his dominance that if he really wanted to, Kong would be dead. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And Kong, but now he nearly does kill Kong. Kong is so out of it. So is Godzilla. So when Mecha-Godzilla shows up, Mecha-Godzilla is so OP'd.
Yeah.
But it's so clear now that it's basically Mecha-Godzilla / Ghidorah. Ghidorah's like, okay, one more time now. You're not gonna take me down.
And then you suddenly realize, oh, that's why Godzilla was so ticked off at Apex, because they were messing with that shit.
They were messing with Ghidorah, who was a usurper Apex. It's like, even Maddie points that out. You know, it's how little we've been talking about them, because that's how little they matter. But yeah, and then they basically, you have a bit of a scuffle. Kong gets back. They basically defib Kong to get him up, utilizing their ships. The deaf girl tells him, "Godzilla, not enemy. That is enemy. It's true."
That was such a good scene.
Oh yeah, and you can still tell Kong feels like, oh, I feel like shit. You know,
all right, fine. Well, if you say so.
Exactly. You can still tell there's a little bit of reluctance. Like, well, all right. But yeah, then he joins in, and I loved when those two became the Bash Brothers.
Oh yeah.
But they just but even then, he's too much for them. Mecha-Godzilla is still too much for him, and it makes sense. He was designed to be an anti-Titan. And you have Mecha-Godzilla just deciding, like, no messing around, no showing of dominance. I'm just taking you down. But then during the fight, Godzilla shoots his breast right at the axe, powering it back up, takes him down. But I do love it though how, yes, it's Kong who does it, but he needed Godzilla's energy to do it. But I will give this, even though this is Kevin, the docile one, we already seen how he can be just as batshit insane as his brothers. He doesn't go down without a fight. He's ready to blast him, even when he's dismembered and everything. He's all like, I can still take you. And then we get a very Predator skull and spine rip. Kong's like, humans meet up and everything. And then, but then we have a moment I love. Godzilla, Godzilla roars, Kong gets up, holds the axe. You're like, and I love how Godzilla looks at him like, you want to go again, son? Come on then, let's do it. And then Kong just drops the axe and is like, no, I admit it, I won't bow, but I concede.
I learned my lesson, old man.
Exactly, but again, he doesn't bow. Did you notice that? He doesn't bow like any of the other monsters. He's just like, very well. And then when Godzilla leaves, more than even the first movie, you feel like he's like, damn these whippersnappers, I'm too old for this.
Yeah, it's just like the fact that the kaiju were so expressive throughout like the entirety of the movie is sort of like really good for contrasting against Mecha-Godzilla being like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it then ends with Kong. He's now still the ruler of the Hollow Earth. Now, some people say that he was banished there by Godzilla. I don't think so.
Nah, I think they're just kind of like this mutual understanding of, I've got my turf, you've got yours.
Yep. Now, to be fair, the big question is, who has the most turf? Godzilla has the surface, Kong has Hollow Earth. That's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah, perhaps something to be answered in future Monsterverse movies if they do make them.
They do. That's the thing, though. That's the big thing. Yes, there's a whole lot of more Godzilla monsters they could bring in. Yes, they could cross over with Gamera if they can get the rights. I know that's something you want, but overall, this is the end of the first chapter. But I think they closed it out too neatly.
Yeah, it's just like there's not enough sort of like loose threads hanging on.
Exactly. I mean, even Avengers Endgame still left some lingering stuff, and you could tell there's going to be other threats. Here, though, what can top Ghidorah now that Ghidorah is fully dead? Again, there's plenty of others. You could also bring in the Futurians version of King Ghidorah. I'll show you about that some other point. But really, though, aside from stuff like Megalon or Gigan, there really aren't that many other monsters that could be equal to Ghidorah or Mecha-Godzilla. that's now again they could rework them, they come up with some new ones, or again they could bring in Gamera. I would love to see that Gamera.
I would love to see that too, and I figured if there's enough money in it, and the rights are sitting around somewhere, maybe it could happen.
Yep, and let's be honest though, the two are pretty much similar as much as it is, and then you gotta be Godzilla is ruler of the surface, and Gamera is ruler of the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that could lead it to an even more so of like, wait a minute now, you say my kingdom has gotten smaller? Oh, F that!
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, because if we keep the Atlantean origins, then again, that would also mean, though, that Gamera's another man-made apex. Just more ancient. You know what I mean? When you really think about that, so...
Which is kind of interesting. It's kind of a different flavor from the things we've been thrown so far.
Yeah, I know. You've had we've had a natural apex, 2 of them. We've had a spacefaring apex, and we've had a man-made apex. Well, man-made was more modern science, so that's more mechanical. But having it be if there was a man-made, a different type of man-made, that would be interesting. But we don't want to go on too much longer. Overall, so much of this movie was good. Again, the human side for the Godzilla side was the weakest. No, again, we didn't talk much about it at all. The whole point there was to pour liquid into Mecha-Godzilla's machine and give him an opening. That was it. And to show us a point of view, which you didn't really need. But yeah, whereas at least the Kong side had a purpose. And I'll be honest, the Kong side felt more like what you felt like in King of the Monsters, Humans.
Yeah, it really did.
Well handled, a bit corny, but not bad. But yeah, overall, I give it a 9 to a 9.5. I still haven't decided yet.
Agreed.
Yep, out of 10. Guys, see it. Use your 1 week free for HBO Max, any of that stuff. Watch the entire Monsterverse, but see it. Oh, I should point it out, as my friend Tristan has watched it, but she didn't watch the other ones. It's best to at least watch King of the Monsters beforehand. You can skip Kong, you can skip the original Godzilla, but see King of the Monsters first. Because it explains so much and sets this up so much better. If you go in blind, you're going to be lost. You're going to be so lost. And you'll probably think Godzilla's an asshole. I mean, he is, but you think more so without context. All right, then. So that's all we got to say. Hope you enjoyed our review, and we'll see you all later.